NFC East matchup on deck for week 2 of the NFL, and this time it's the Giants and the Cowboys. Both teams trying to get their first win of the season. Cowboys losing to the Eagles, Giants losing to the Commanders. Russ did not look great in that season opener, 17-37, 168 yards with no touchdowns, no INTs, and Brian Daboll made it very clear this week, despite having Jackson Dart waiting in the wings, Russ is going to be the starting quarterback for the New York Giants against the Dallas Cowboys in week 2. All right, Lige Duzable is back with us, and also a guy who knows a thing or two about the Cowboys, Isaiah Stanback, joining us. Great to see you. And gentlemen, the Giants, Brian Daboll, committing to Russ despite the performance that we saw there. Does this surprise you, Lige, that they were like, hey, we're gonna stick with Russ week 2 against, for them, a difficult opponent probably in the Dallas Cowboys?
No, it doesn't surprise me. Now, the thing is, Brian Daboll needs to be careful, because Isaiah can speak to this. As players in the locker room, we feel like if there's a guy that's currently starting at quarterback that he doesn't give us the best chance, you could lose the locker room, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to be cognizant of that if you're Brian Daboll. And I'm sure he has a post on the locker room. Jackson Dart looked magnificent throughout preseason and really grew as a passer. I think one of my biggest concerns when he came out was when he came from that Lane Kiffin offense, it was half-field reads. Well, now he's going through full progressions, and he looked like a quarterback that didn't look out of place throughout preseason. So there's a lot of excitement about him. You also saw your number one receiver, Malik Neighbors, get clearly upset on the sideline with Brian Daboll because the offense wasn't clicking like it needed to click. So if you're Brian Daboll, I'm not surprised that you didn't want to rush Jackson Dart out there yet. A lot of people said maybe a soft landing spot is week 5 versus the New Orleans Saints. But you need to be cognizant of your locker room, because if they feel like the guy that currently is under center, Russell Wilson, cannot give them the best chance to win games, and you continue to put him out there, you can lose the locker room.
I know you guys want to hit at the low-hanging fruit in terms of Russell Wilson, and everybody wants to see the young protege Jackson Dart go out there and do his thing. But I promise you, if you put him out there, you are setting him up for failure. You're not setting him up for success. Reason being that Russell Wilson dropped back 37 times, right? Trying to throw the rock 37 times. He was under duress 65% of the time. He had somebody sitting in his lap. I don't care who you are outside of Lamar Jackson, you cannot have any success with that type of pressure. The problem for the New York Giants right now is their scheme, and the problem for the New York Giants is inability to run the ball, and the problem for the New York Giants right now is their ability to protect the quarterback regardless of who it is.
So, Isaiah, I know you said, hey, if we put Jackson Dart out there, you're kind of setting him up for failure at this point, and the schedule doesn't get any easier for the Cowboys, for the Giants all season long. It's the Chiefs, then it's the Chargers on Sunday Night Football with the Chiefs, by the way, then maybe the Saints, but then it's like, hey, you get the Eagles on Thursday night after that.
And then the Broncos.
It doesn't get better. It's the hardest strength of schedule in the NFL. So, Isaiah, do you think they should make the move to Jackson Dart at any point in the season this year?
I mean, I'm sure there will be a point in time where you will make a move to Jackson Dart because he is your future, and you understand that Russell Wilson is your right now kind of plug and play. But the reality is, as I mentioned, he was under duress 65% of the time. If you take out the 8 rushes that Russell Wilson had for 44 yards, then they only had 15 rushing attempts for 30 yards collectively out of their 3 running backs that played. If you can't get an official running game going, then you can't protect your young quarterback. If you can't pass protect, then you can't protect your young quarterback. So there's really no point to put him out there if he's not in a situation where he can actually grow and develop, and you can see some kind of fruition happen. And putting him out there in that situation is just not good until you figure out exactly what's going on with your offense.
To your point, it comes back to the offensive line, which has been the bugaboo for this Giants team for the last couple of years. And their Pro Bowl tackle, left tackle, Andrew Thomas, still hasn't come back from injury. So maybe that's what Brian Daboll is thinking. I don't want to put this young kid behind that offensive line because I see that Russell Wilson is under duress. Now, Russell tends to hold the ball entirely too long as well. In Brian Daboll's system, it's about timing and throwing the ball and knowing where to go with the football. But if you're a young Jackson Dart, I don't want to put him out there because right now it's a blitzkrieg when it comes to this offensive line. So that could be part of the thinking. Maybe he's waiting for Andrew Thomas to come back and be 100% healthy. That way he feels at least his blind side is taken care of, and the young quarterback will be a little bit more comfortable in the pocket.
But really quickly, Lige, what do you think? Like against the Saints?
I mean, it just depends, right? Because what if it gets as ugly this week as it was last week?
Yeah.
Could that maybe make Brian Daboll make a decision? Because it goes back to what I was saying earlier. If you're a teammate in that locker room, you're on that defense, you're Malik Neighbors, and you feel that Jackson Dart gives you a better opportunity to win because you you haven't liked what you saw from Russell Wilson, then the head coach has to be cognizant of that, because you could lose the locker room. And the worst thing to do is lose a locker room only in like week 2 or 3 of the season, because you still have 15, 16 games left.
Yeah, a whole lot of football left to be played. If we look at the Cowboys, Dak Prescott, he has a lot of streaks going against certain teams, and I think maybe one of the longest ones is against the Giants, a 13-game win streak. The last time that the Giants beat the Cowboys, we have to go all the way back to 2016, and all of these things were cracking me up, but Malik Neighbors was 13 years old the last time that the Giants beat the Cowboys, which is absolutely insane. Lige, does Dak make it 14 here?
I believe he does, especially at home. Didn't like what I saw from that Giants offense. And then people talked about that defense, and I thought it could be one of the better defensive lines in football. Besides Brian Burns, I don't think that defense played at the level that they should be playing at for the talent that's actually on that roster in week 1 versus the Commanders. So Dallas felt like they let one get away, right? I know we're going to talk about CeeDee Lamb later, a couple drop passes. There was opportunities out there to be had. So they're definitely, they want to be able to keep pace with the Commanders and the Eagles. I like Dallas in this game for sure.
Yeah, I like Dallas as well. I mean, you think about what you saw on film for the New York Giants. There wasn't much defensively that was really stopping the assault from the Washington Commanders. I mean, these guys pretty much had their way 233 yards in the air. These guys had over 200 yards on the ground. There was nothing that was stopping their offense. And you talk about the D-line. You know, these guys have Abdul Carter. They have Thibodeau. They have, Sexy Dexy and Dexter Lawrence up front. They have all the Brian Burns, all the guys that you can imagine. But it doesn't matter if you're not able to eliminate one aspect of the opposing offense. And Commanders had their way. Dallas obviously had some positive effect against the Philadelphia Eagles this past week on the ground game, over 100 yards. They were a little bit sluggish in the passing game, but I don't believe that they can match up in terms of the Giants against the Dallas Cowboys, man for man, talent for talent, outside of that front defensive line.
Let's go back to CeeDee Lamb, because he had a lot of costly drops in that loss against the Eagles in week 1. He owned it, right? That's not typical CeeDee Lamb behavior, but Isaiah, do you trust that he can clean this up, not only in week 2, but just moving forward in general? He is a key piece of that offense, the star, if you want to argue that.
Yeah, absolutely. You're talking about one of the top 3 receivers in the game, and it is arguable, obviously, top 3, top 5, however you want to lay it out. But CeeDee Lamb is an absolute beast. He's been a dog. He's done nothing but progress and have an ascension every single year in this league. Now, obviously, the last week didn't go the way that he wanted to, but he still had over 100 yards in the game. So, yes, he has some drops that he has to clean up. But I ask people this question, not making any excuses, not making any errors for him, but when's the last time he's been hit? So you think about some of those drops that he had, they were under duress. There was somebody that was about to hit him across the middle. There was guys that were in his area. There was a diving catch. He hasn't had those reps since last season. He didn't play in the preseason. So you're not taking those reps. You're not making those dives in training camp. So again, not making any excuses, but I can guarantee you that CeeDee Lamb has been putting in the work this past week to address those drops, and he is a competitor. He will come back stronger than ever.
Yeah, first and foremost, Isaiah, I love that he took accountability for those drops. But second, to your point, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think that was the biggest issue. He didn't play in preseason, and we saw when he was holding out how he struggled to start the season. So maybe this changes his mindset going forward. I love that on that Friday, he was out there by himself on the jug machine trying to catch passes. He'll bounce back from this.
Yeah, it's always a conversation, right? Like preseason, do they play? Do they not? It's always changing. Lige, Isaiah, we certainly appreciate it here, covering the storylines that we have to talk about with the Giants and the Cowboys. So now we're going to get to the betting angle, because Cowboys, they are 5.5-point favorites. The total sitting at 44 and a hook. So let's bring in Claudia Bellafato. Claudia, great to see you. Where are you finding value? How do we bet on this game?
Well, I like listening to you guys, and you validate my feelings on the under, because where are the points going to come from, guys? We just talked about so many of these struggles. We saw the Cowboys lay an egg in the second half against the Eagles in week 1. They could not run the ball, as we know. Giants were soft against the run in week 1. That shouldn't be an issue. And then the passing game, I don't see how they find any consistency here. We saw Dak have the 7th highest pressure rate in week 1. How's he going to fare against this defensive front coming off a 3-sack game with the Giants? I talked about the run game on that side. Giants, they can't run the ball either. And their head coach doesn't have any faith in their quarterback. Does that give you faith in their quarterback? It doesn't to me. They couldn't convert on 3rd down. They just went 4 of 16. I don't see where the points come from in this game. I gotta go under, guys.
All right, Cowboys Nation, buckle up because we've got a bombshell update on Jadaveon Clowney and your Dallas Cowboys. You might have seen the headlines saying Clowney left Dallas without a deal, and I know a lot of fans out there were frustrated thinking Jerry and Steven fumbled another free agency signing, but let me tell you, that's not the case this time. In fact, this update is actually very encouraging, and I'll explain why the door is still wide open for Clowney to be wearing the star on his helmet this season. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around for this because this could change the entire look of our defense. So here's the scoop. The Cowboys brought in Jadaveon Clowney this week for a visit. Now let's be real. He's not the same freak athlete we saw back in 2014 when he went first overall in the draft. But don't get it twisted, like Clowney can still play. He's one of the best run defenders in the league, he generates consistent pressure, and he's coming off a season where he put up 8.5 sacks and 43 tackles with the Ravens in 2024. That's production you absolutely want on your defensive line. And here's where it gets interesting. According to insider Brian Broaddus, the Cowboys wanted to sign Clowney. Let me say that again. The Cowboys were ready to put pen to paper. This wasn't Jerry Jones being cheap. This wasn't the front office dragging their feet. No, this time it was Clowney who said, I want to wait and see. That's huge because it means Dallas made a real push. Now, why would Clowney wait? Well, this is kind of his thing. Throughout his career, he's been known to take his time in free agency, see what other offers are out there, and then make a move. The good news is, if no other serious suitors come forward, the Cowboys' offer is sitting right there. The door is still wide open. Think about what this would mean for our defense. You've already got Micah Parsons, one of the most dominant pass rushers in football. He had 14 sacks last season, ranked top 5 in the NFL. You pair that with DeMarcus Lawrence, who's still a force against the run and can collapse the pocket. That's how you win playoff games. That's how you finally punch your ticket to the Super Bowl. And let's be honest, Clowney doesn't need to be Superman here. He doesn't have to carry the defense like he did in Houston or Cleveland. In Dallas, he'd be a complimentary piece. And that's exactly what makes this such a perfect fit. So Cowboys Nation, I want to hear from you. Do you think Dallas should go all in on Jadaveon Clowney? Would you feel good about him lining up with Micah and D-Law to create a three-headed monster on the defensive line? Or do you think he's too inconsistent to trust? Drop your takes in the comments right now. And hey, if you're like me and you're dreaming about seeing Clowney in the star, smash that like button, subscribe to Dallas Cowboys today, and share this video with every Cowboys fan you know. Because I'll tell you this, if Clowney signs in Dallas, the rest of the NFC better watch out. This defense will be downright scary. This has been Victor, your diehard Cowboys fan, breaking down the latest on Jadaveon Clowney and America's team. Stay tuned because this story is far from over, and the Cowboys might just be one move away from building a defense that dominates the NFL.